Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is divide using long division. And then it says show all steps, write your answer in the alternate form. Okay, so the alternate form is just going to be your quotient. Whatever you get is your quotient, and that would be plus your remainder, which is r of x, over your divisor, which is going to be d of x. That's how we're going to write our final answer there. Okay, so once you start, you have x to the fourth, and you're going to divide that by x squared. So when I do x to the fourth divided by x squared, I get x squared. Okay, so I'm going to distribute x squared times x squared is x to the fourth. X squared times, this is a -4, is going to be -4x squared. And then remember, we have to switch our signs. So I change this to a negative, circle it. I change this to a positive, circle it. Notice that I put this underneath the column of x squared because x squared times -4, this is not going to be cubed, so this should be blank. So -2x cubed is going to drop down. When I add -4x squared to 4x squared, then I'm going to get 0. And 13x is going to drop down. The plus 0, I just put that there as a placeholder. You don't necessarily need that. And then my process is going to start over again. So when I do -2x cubed divided by x squared, I get -2x. So -2x times x squared is 2x cubed, -2x cubed. And -2x times -4 is going to be positive 8x. So when I change my sign, this turns from a negative to a positive. This is going to turn into a minus. So 13x minus 8x is going to be 5x. I know that some of you don't change your signs at this step. If you just put your minus here, that's fine. Just make sure that you put parentheses around the rest of your expression here to indicate that you are distributing that negative term. Now, once I get here, I know I can stop because the degree of 5x is less than the degree of the divisor, okay? Which means this is going to be my quotient, x squared minus 2x. My remainder is 5x, and then I'm going to put that over x squared minus 4. So your final answer in alternate form is x squared minus 2x plus 5x over x squared minus 4. And that's how you do your long division. Okay, number 5. Okay, you are given p of x, and your directions say, mine aren't on here, but find the all rational zeros. And using synthetic division, you have to find all of your rational zeros. So you're given the polynomial. Okay, and you're doing more than finding all the possible ones. You're finding all of them, which means you have to find the actual zeros. So first you can generate a list of the possible zeros. And to do that, remember you do your P over Q. So factors of 4 over factors of 3. Okay, so the factors of 4 are going to be 1, 2, and 4. And I have plus or minus. Then I'm going to take those and divide them by the factors of 3. So when I divide them all by 1, which is the first factor of 3, I get plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 4. When I divide those by 3, I get plus or minus 1/3, plus or minus 2/3, and plus or minus 4/3. So that's going to help me on my next step, where I'm going to use my graphing calculator to find out where some of my actual zeros are. Now I could guess and check, but if I want to get a more accurate guess, then I'm going to look and see where the real zeros are. Okay, so the real zeros are always going to be your x-intercepts on your graph. So I'm going to look at my graph and see where my real zeros are. So let's take a look. All right, so it looks like I have one here at -1. Okay, this looks like it's in between 0 and 1. Now, you might think that that's 1/2, but go back to your list. Okay, your possibilities are 1/3, 2/3, and 4/3. Okay, so this looks like it could be 2/3 here. Okay, and then that looks like it's really close to 2. Okay, so we can check using synthetic division. Now, you could use any one of those zeros and verify with synthetic division. I chose -1 because I thought that was the most clear. So for synthetic division, you're going to line up the coefficients. If there is any of the terms missing, then you have to put a 0 as a placeholder, okay, including the constant term. So I have x cubed, x squared, x, my constant. Nothing's missing. I don't need any placeholders, so I'm going to use synthetic division. So drop down the 3. 3 times -1 is -3. Add straight down. -8 times -1 is 8. Add straight down. 4 times -1 is -4. And then I have 0. So if your remainder is 0, according to the factor theorem, that means that x plus 1 is going to be a factor. So this is our first 0, the -1. So we can go ahead and write that as one of our answers. And then what you're left with here is a quadratic equation. I'm going to write out my quadratic equation, and you can choose to solve this really either by factoring, or you could use the quadratic formula. For this one, the directions are going to tell us that we have to write this in factored form. So if you have to write it in factored form, then you can factor this. Okay, so you're going to want to factor. So with 3x squared, I'm going to start my parentheses with 3x and x. And then I'm looking for something that multiplies to a +4 and adds to -8. So that's going to tell me I have 2 negatives here. Now, when I put 2 and 2 in, if I do 3 times -2, I'm going to get -6. And then -2 times x is going to be -2, which is going to add up to -8. So I know I factor that correctly. To find my zeros, I can set both of these equal to 0 and solve. And then I will have x equals 2/3 and x equals 2. So my zeros are -1, 2/3, and 2. And then for your factored form, all of your coefficients have to be integers. Okay, so that means if this is 2/3, we aren't going to write x minus 2/3. 2/3 is not an integer. What we're going to do is we're going to keep this, 3x minus 2. So if you factor here, really, the 3x minus 2 and the x minus 2 are going to be part of your factored form. Okay, and then with the x plus 1, that's going to be -1 in factored form. Okay, so remember, whatever your value of c, if c is your constant, it's x minus c. So x minus -1 will be x plus 1. Here we factored, so we already have that. And the polynomial given is called p of x. So p of x is going to equal x plus 1 multiplied by 3x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 2. So this is going to be your factored form of the polynomial. And then your zeros are -1, 2/3, and 2. Okay, and I know I found all my zeros for this because the degree is 3, and I have my 3 real and rational zeros. All right. If you need help with page 2, go to the next video.